What is your most traumatizing family-related experience? My father passed away years ago. My dad was an extremely rich entrepreneur who owned several tech startups and companies, and in his will, he left the vast majority of his wealth, and all of his tech startups, to me alone. I have two younger brothers, and compared to me, they pretty much got nothing from my dad in their inheritance. So, in the immediate days after my dad died, there was significant controversy regarding my dad's will in my family. My brothers were absolutely livid with jealousy that I was the one who got all of dad's startups, and there were a lot of reasons as to why I got the best of my dad's wealth in my inheritance. One of them was that I was his firstborn child, and also because I was the eldest child in the family and had proven myself to be more than responsible with the types of things my dad was bequeathing to me. However, on the other hand, my younger brothers were so irresponsible about everything, that they had barely gotten out of their, very chronic, substance addictions by the time my dad died. So, the point is that my dad left most of his worldly riches to me in his will, and my younger brothers hated me for it, and they thought it was unfair. And they both brought this issue up very unceremoniously at my dad's funeral. They directly confronted me about it right at the funeral, creating a huge scene about the whole thing, and they said that I had to do something to make dad's will more equal for everyone. I patently refused, of course, and told them to at least leave this shamelessness out of my dad's funeral. My brothers still kept raging and being aggressively all in my face. However, even though I tried my level best to calm things down, but things escalated regardless, and in a fit of rage, I screamed and pushed both my brothers away from me really hard. That caused my youngest brother to throw a knife right at me in the middle of the funeral. The knife struck me on the side of my head, and the entire funeral basically descended to chaos after that, and it was practically ruined. After the funeral, my brothers kept very viciously and shamelessly fighting me on the issue of the will over the next couple of days. We three lived in the same apartment. They even bitterly fought among themselves about who deserved what portion of the will, and it deeply saddened me to see this disgraceful sibling rivalry unfold. My brothers kept aggressively urging me to give them some of my inheritance, and I still flatly refused, because neither of them had the qualities and maturity to handle the inheritance. Anyway, after I was persistent in my refusal, my brothers began literally harassing and bullying me in our own home, alienating me, giving me pushes and shoves out of nowhere, and just acting as though I, their big sister, was their worst enemy. I even started feeling afraid of being in my own home because of my brothers, and it was one of the darkest periods of my life. I started fearing for my life, because I seriously thought that my brothers would murder me one day so they could get my inheritance. That's how ferocious my brothers seemed to obtain my dad's startups and wealth. But then, just when I thought my brothers could get no more drunk with greed, things took an even darker turn. One evening, I was feeling particularly scared of the possibility of my brothers doing something to hurt me, so I called a friend of mine to stay the night with me. She came to me after my brothers were asleep, so they didn't know that she was in the house. Anyway, my friend agreed to sleep with me in my room for a night, just so I could feel safe. That night, at around 2 a.m., I woke up to go to the bathroom. I got up from my bed and saw that my friend was completely covered in the blanket she was using, and I left the room. I spent several minutes in the bathroom, and after I was finished, I walked back to my room. When I saw from the outside that my room's door was slightly open, I also heard some inexplicable banging and thudding noises coming from inside my room. And after hearing those noises, I immediately entered my room and turned the lights on, only to see both of my brothers on my bed, and my youngest brother was wielding this massive bludgeon-like weapon. The bludgeon he was holding was covered with blood, and there was blood all over the blanket under which my friend was sleeping. And then, I realized it. My brothers had mistakenly used it on my friend, thinking it was me. I screamed a blood-curdling scream when I saw this horrific sight in front of me, and when my brothers saw me, their faces fell as pale as snow. The bludgeon dropped on the bed, and unable to think what to do, I just sprinted towards the bed to see if my friend was alive, and when I pulled the blanket off her, I screamed again. Her face was absolutely disfigured and barely even recognizable because of how hard my brother smashed her face in with the bludgeon. There was blood all over the bed. I had a panic attack right there and then, and I ran out of my room screaming, and I left my apartment in the frenzy too. I dialed 911 outside and called an ambulance and the police. My friend was transported to the nearest hospital when the ambulance came, and unfortunately, she was pronounced dead at that hospital. And my brothers were both also arrested by the police, and they were subsequently incarcerated for first-degree murder. My brothers admitted to the police that they had planned to kill me in my sleep. They said that after killing me, they were sure they'd get our father's wealth. But worst of all for me is that I'll never recover from the sheer trauma of that unimaginable situation, the utter monstrousness of it. And I curse myself eternally for asking my friend to sleep with me that night in my apartment. I just feel such a guilt for it all, and I don't think I can ever forgive myself for my friend's death, which I hold myself partially responsible for, and probably always will.